Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. So today our topic is going to be accessibility settings. So these are settings on your phone, tablet, computer that you can turn on and activate to just make your device a bit easier to use. But before we get started, I'm proud to say that this webinar is sponsored by Breezeline. Breezeline is the 8th largest cable provider in the US, offering internet, TV, and voice services to residents and businesses in 12 states. So if you'd like to learn more about Breezeline, what they offer, and see what services are available in your area, you can visit them at www.breezeline.com after this session. Now, the internet is a fantastic tool, but having the support to be able to use it more easily and efficiently is equally important. So that's what we're going to be covering today. But before we jump in, we're going to see a quick video from Breezeline.
Wi-Fi your way home, powered by Flume Home Pass. Technology that spreads ultra-fast Wi-Fi to every inch of your home. We make having a Wi-Fi supercharged home easy by including a SuperPod with your Wi-Fi gateway package. Learn more at breezeline.com.
All right, so once again, if you'd like to learn more after this webinar, you can visit www.breezeline.com. But let's jump in. So how to access accessibility settings. So first of all, what are accessibility settings? Accessibility features or settings allow you to customize your gadget, so that's your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever it may be, to your specific requirements. In this presentation, we're going to show you how to modify your device to make it easier to use. And what are accessibility settings? Part 2. So vision, hearing, and physical motor skills and educational settings are among the accessibility features that can help people with a variety of needs use their electronic devices to engage with the world around them more easily. So we're talking things like screen readers. We're talking about adjusting screen settings so that text appears bigger, so that images and apps and icons appear bigger. All those sorts of things. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go through the accessibility settings on 4 types of devices. So we're going to start off by going through the Mac OS system, which is the system that's on Apple computers. Then we're going to go over Windows accessibility settings, which they call ease of use. So that's on any sort of computer that runs Windows. Then we will look at iOS, which is the operating system that runs on iPhones and iPads. So the accessibility settings if you have either an iPhone or an iPad. And then the accessibility settings on Android devices. So Android devices run on a bunch of different brands of phones and tablets. It could be Samsung, LG, Lenovo, to name a few. So really, if you have almost any other kind of device besides an Apple device, it's most likely running on Android. So we're going to look at those accessibility settings as well. But before we do jump into that, the way you get to your accessibility settings is pretty much the same throughout all of these devices. You'll always go into your main settings folder, and then you'll go into the accessibility folder. So if I'm not covering your specific device today, you'll know that a lot of these different features are available on different devices. They may just be named slightly different things or what have you. But usually you're going to go into your settings, which is nearly always indicated by a little gear icon, as you can see on the screen. And then the accessibility settings are normally always indicated by the second icon I have on the right here, which is a person with their kind of arms outstretched beside them. And that is most likely going to be the accessibility icon setting. Now, again, these may vary, but that's pretty much the rule of thumb when it comes to how you get to your accessibility settings. All right, so we're going to spend quite a bit of time on each of these types of devices. So if you're only interested in one type of device or another, I'm going to tell you where you can skip forward to in the video to get to that section. So for Mac OS, that's Mac computers, you're going to skip to 4 minutes, which actually starts, I think, right now. For Windows, you're going to go to 21 minutes in the video. So just use the bar at the bottom to scroll forward to 21 minutes. For iOS, so that's iPhones and iPads, skip forward to 32 minutes. And for Android devices, skip forward to 47 minutes. All right, so starting off, we're going to talk about Mac OS first. So let's jump in. All right, here we are on my Mac desktop. So in order to access your accessibility settings on a Mac computer, you're going to want to start by going up into the into the top left corner here to where this Apple symbol is here. We're going to go into here and we're going to go into System Preferences. So you'll go into the Apple icon in the top left and into System Preferences. This will open up your system preferences or your settings, as you might refer to it as. And you'll get this window that opens with all these options. Somewhere in the mix in there, you should have your accessibility settings. So there it is. The icon is a person with their arms outstretched. We'll say accessibility under it. So we're just going to go ahead in here. So when you open this up, I will see if I can make this a bit bigger. Seems as though I cannot. That is the size. So we'll have this window here, and on the left side of the screen, we'll have all of our little sections in our accessibility settings. So we'll start with the overview, and as we click through things, we'll see that they appear on the right side of the screen here. So here we go. First, we'll start with vision. They're all broken down into sections, so vision, hearing, motor, and general. So the first thing we have here is voiceover. So voiceover provides spoken and braille descriptions of items on the computer screen and provides controls of the computer through the use of the keyboard. So you can turn on voiceover.
Welcome to voiceover.
And
voiceover speaks descriptions of items on the screen.
Right. So we'll do that. I'm going to turn it off because I don't want it to keep going. But it will read stuff on the screen as you press it. And as you scroll over things. So it can be really useful if you have any vision problems, especially if you have more severe vision problems and you need help navigating the screen because you're not really seeing things as well. Just to point out, with any of these sections, if you click this little question mark, we can see basically all the options in here. You can read through a description of what things do and how to turn these settings on and off. So that's really, really useful. You'll find that in the corner for every section that we go over. You can open voiceover training too. So it teaches you how to use this feature because, again, it can be a bit difficult, something you have to get used to at first. So feel free to open up voiceover training or open up the voiceover utility, which gives you some more options about how you set this up. What the speech is like, the verbosity of the speech, the sound, and all these different kind of components that can be used with it. Next, we have Zoom. So Zoom allows you to use keyboard shortcuts to zoom in on your screen. So there's parts of our screens that we're able to usually zoom in on. Maybe it's a photo, a video, or else sometimes the websites allow us to zoom in. But for the most part, a lot of parts of our screen are not compatible with like a zoom feature. So if we want to be able to zoom in, say, on our home screen or on this window, for instance, we can turn on this feature, use keyboard shortcuts to zoom, and we'll be able to zoom in and out on our device by using these shortcuts. So we can try one here, and I can then, so I did the toggle zoom, and then I can move this around, and I can use this little zoom feature, and I can turn it off. So this is just an option. If you want to be able to access Zoom features, you can also use a scroll gesture with modified keys to zoom on things. So if I turn this on, I can go like this, and I'm using my keyboard to do a scroll with 2 fingers. So I'm just swiping with 2 fingers to zoom in and out on things. You can turn that on and off. You can choose the zoom style, and you can get into more advanced settings with this, so you can check this out as well. Restore zoom factor on startup, invert colors, all sorts of things you may want to do with that zoom feature. You can enable hover text to display large text and view of the item under the pointer. So I can use my pointer to go over things and it will zoom. And enable touch bar zoom as well. So again, use that little question mark if you're unsure about any of these sections or what they do, but a very handy tool for occasional use of zooming in and out if you are to need it. Next, display. This section is really great just for changing little things on your device so that you can, get better use out of it. So things like invert colors, which inverts the color of your screen. This I find a bit intense, but it can make things a bit more contrasted and sometimes easier to see. You can do classic invert or what they call a smart invert on this. You can reduce motion. So basically what that means is when I do things like shut down a window, it kind of zips down to the bottom bar, right? It will kind of swipe away or something. When you reduce motion, those things kind of go away. You can increase contrast on your screen, so you'll see now everything is just a bit more clear, the distinction between lines and stuff. So this is really helpful, I find. I actually have this turned on my iPad. I don't really use it on my computer though. We can reduce transparency, which just makes things that may have some level of transparency to them have no transparency. Again, this can make things a bit more contrasted. And then differentiate without color. So this finds other ways to differentiate between items that are not color-based like it would normally do. So if you want that, you can turn that on or off. Then we can change the menu bar style to be default or large. Mine is filled up, so it doesn't really change how big it is, but we can change those there. And then we can change our display contrast pretty intensely on here. So this is pretty bad, but I would keep it down at normal. Next, we can go into cursor. So I have my cursor quite large here. We can change the size. Maybe I'll keep it a bit larger for this example, but we can go through and change the size of our mouse. And then we have color filters, which allow us to change the colors of our screen just slightly. So this is really great if you have any sort of color blindness, and it can adjust the screen's color just to be slightly different to adjust so you see the colors on the screen properly, and you can change the intensity of it as well. Moving on to spoken content. So spoken content, this just allows you to change some of the features of the voice and the speed of the speaking rate of when you're using spoken content. So like when you're using a screen reader, so things like voiceover and stuff like that, you can change how that voice sounds. You can also turn things on like speak announcements, speak selection, speak items under the pointer. So if you get a notification, it will be spoken out loud. You won't just see it as a visual cue, you'll also hear it. So, and you have options about, what the delay is, what system it uses, and all sorts of options to fix that up and make it to your preference. Then we have descriptions. So audio descriptions will be provided on spoken. Audio descriptions provide spoken descriptions of visual content in media. This will only play when it's available. So unfortunately, this is not something that's commonly done on a lot of websites or for images. So you won't always see it, but when it is available, it will speak descriptions of visual content in media. Next, we move on to hearing. So we'll go into audio. So this is great if you have hearing issues. So one thing is you can flash the screen when an alert sound occurs. So where you may get a sound when an email comes in, if you're unable to hear sounds or you're setting this device up for someone who's unable to hear sounds, you can actually just change that into a visual cue. So a flash on the screen that indicates, hey, there was a sound that was made, and we can test this out to see how that works, just like that. And then we can also play stereo audio as mono. So mono audio is when the same sounds come out the left speaker as the right speaker. This is most helpful when we're using headphones. So if we're listening to music and the mix has certain sounds coming out of the right side and certain sounds coming out of the left side, if we're hard of hearing in one ear, we may miss some of the audio. So if you turn on mono audio, that fixes it. It will play the same sound out of both sides. You can also open your sound preferences from here and adjust other things too that might be used in an accessible type way. Next we have RTT, which is real-time text calls. So basically, when you turn this on, you can make real-time text calls on your device. So what that means, again, you can click that little question mark to find out more about this. So you can make and receive RTT calls on your Mac without using a special device. So when it's selected, you can basically make a phone call on your Mac, and you can choose to use audio RTT or RTT relay. So you can send characters as you type them, or to type out full messages before you send them, and stuff like that. So this is a great option here that you can use and enable on your device, and you just put your phone number in here, and you can start using it to make those calls. So it's set up through your device. Next, we have captions. So you can turn on these closed captions, and when available, you will get captions on media, video media, and stuff like that on your screen. Again, this is subject to when it's available, but you can do things like change how these captions appear on your screen to your preference, and you can click in and you can choose even more options for how they appear as well. In Motor, we have voice control. So voice control allows you to edit text or interact with your computer by just speaking to it. So you can turn this on and you can speak out certain commands. You can also write with your voice. So you can, go into a Word document and start speaking, and it will type out what you're saying as you're saying it. This takes some getting used to, but once you do, it can actually be really useful and pretty quick way to transcribe text. Next, we have keyboard. So you can enable things like sticky keys that allow modifier keys to be set without having to hold down a key. And you can also turn on slow keys, which adjust the amount of time between when a key is pressed and when it's activated. So if you have a problem with, you can't click buttons quick enough and you're clicking a J, but you're getting 4 Js as you're typing because you're holding it down too long, you can turn on slow keys so that you don't run into that problem. And then we could also access an accessibility keyboard, which lets you type on the Mac without using a hardware keyboard on your screen. So you have an on-screen keyboard rather than your physical keyboard on your device. Next, pointer control. So this is the mouse I have. We can change things like how slow or fast our double click is. So double clicking with the use a lot. Sometimes we can't quite match the pace of how fast it needs to be to select something. So we can slow that down so we can do a tap, tap, rather than having to do a tap, tap kind of speed. Spring load delay, I have this on. This is when you hold down on something and how long you have to do it. And you can turn on ignore the built-in trackpad when a mouse or wireless trackpad is present. So if you're using a separate mouse, you want to turn this on so that if you accidentally swipe across your computer while you're using that mouse, it's not using both. And then we can get into some extra trackpad and mouse options in here. And then we can get into alternative control methods. So enable mouse keys. So you can use your pointer keys on your keyboard as your mouse to move around the mouse on your screen. Oh, and I accidentally just moved it because I was using those. You can turn on enable alternate pointer action, so using things like facial expressions to move your mouse along your screen. This one is a bit more iffy, but you can try it out. Enable head pointer. This allows the pointer of the mouse to be controlled by the motion of your head captured by your camera. Again, a bit iffy about how this works, but it can be used to control your mouse. Now, switch controls. Switch controls allows the computer to be controlled using one or more switches. These can be mouse, keyboard, gamepad buttons, or a dedicated device. So this is just any sort of accessibility device that you'd want to use, whether it's a mouse or something else, to control your screen. So you can choose how you control actions on your device. You don't have to use the built-in keyboard and mouse pad. You can use other devices to control things on your screen, and you just set it up in this section. So there's all sorts of things to go through with this to set it up. And again, use that question mark because there's a lot to set up in here. I would use this question mark to make sure that you set everything up properly and understand every section of this. And then lastly, we have general. So we have Siri, which is Apple's voice assistant. And Siri works to allow you to say voice controls and have them done on your device by saying, "Hey Siri." So when you turn this on, you can do things like say, "Hey Siri, send a text message to my mom," or "Hey Siri, compose an email to Kasha." And it will take those commands and perform those actions based on what you say. So I use this on my phone. Again, it enables it by using...
Which one?
Oh.
Kasha or Kasha US?
Sorry, my other Siri just went off as I did that. So it will go off anytime you say it or anything close to it. I don't know if you heard that in the background, but yeah. And then we have shortcut, so we can add accessibility shortcuts. So when you quickly press the touch ID, on mine I have this button. Again, this shortcut might change depending on what version of a Mac you have. 3 times, you'll be able to toggle accessibility shortcuts on here.
Accessibility shortcuts.
So just like this, and then you can go through and access things quickly. And lastly, on here, if you look in the bottom left corner of this little window, we see show accessibility status in menu bar. If I click this on, we'll now see that I have a little accessibility shortcut up here in my menu bar that I can click on to select different accessibility shortcuts. So that's it for accessibility shortcuts on the Mac. There's a lot here, a lot to go through, so please explore, use that question mark button to figure out more about these settings. There's things that are really simple that you can change that really help, especially in like the display settings section, and there's things that are a bit more complex that can be used for cases where you may need just a lot more accessibility and help with your device. All right, so that was Mac OS accessibility settings. Next, we're going to be tackling Windows settings for accessibility, which they call ease of access. So let's jump in. How to get into accessibility settings. So we're first going to go to the startup button, and it will say start when you hover over it. You click that, and then you'll go to settings. Once you go to settings, you'll get this list. In here, you're looking for the ease of access button. So on my screen, it's right here. But if you can't find it, you can always use the search bar at the top. You just type in ease of access, and it should pop up in a list, and you can click any one of those, and it will bring you to those settings. So now we're in ease of access. Over on the left, we see the list of all the different options we have. The first section is vision. So we're in, and then we have interaction and more. So there are all these subsections. You have display, cursor and pointer, magnifier, etc. But we're going to start with display. So here you'll see you have options first to make your text bigger. So if we were to slide this little tab back and forth, you could see that it would change the size of the text. And when you're doing this, in order to save the changes, it won't automatically change. Sometimes if you see the apply button, you'll have to click that. So if you go ahead and click that, and now you'll see that the text has gotten much bigger all over the screen. But for the sake of this presentation, we'll just put it back to normal. Okay, so next you have an option to change the size of the apps, which changes the little icons on your home screen, which is great if those are too small for you. Next you'll see the brightness settings, so you won't be able to see it here, but if you slide this back and forth, basically it's going to make the brightness of your screen brighter and darker. Down here you have this simplify and personalize windows. This basically just means you can change certain things about how you see what's on your screen, windows that pop up and stuff. So next is cursor and pointer. So this section is great, a lot of use here. One thing you can do is you can change the color of your cursor. So if you click on, say, bright pink, the cursor will change color. You also have settings like this where if you were to click this little box here, when you put your cursor on like a white screen, it will be black, and when it's on like a white screen, it will turn white. So we'll just create contrast so you can see it better. You can also change the cursor thickness. So this is when you're typing. So when you have that little thing that's flashing, it will be thicker, so it'll be easier to see where you're at, like in a document when you're typing. If you're sometimes get lost in the middle of a paragraph and you have no idea where you're supposed to be typing, that will show you. Change touch feedback. So this will basically give you kind of a visual signal on your cursor when you touch things. So magnifier, these settings basically allow you to magnify parts of your screen or your entire screen. So if you turn on magnifier, you will be able to zoom in and out of any part of your screen, which is great if you don't always want everything on your screen to be big, but sometimes you want to zoom in on specific stuff. So yeah, just once again, if you turn that on, you'll get these options to zoom in and out on your screen. Yeah, and then there's more settings down here in terms of how you control that and shortcuts and stuff like that. So color filters, there's tons of great color filters on here, so you just turn those on and you'll get access to them. You have things like inverted. Next is a high contrast, which basically, if you turn that on, you can choose how colors and light gets contrast on your screen, which is really great if sometimes things aren't as defined as you want them to be on your screen and you want to be able to see them better. Turning on your contrast is a great option for that. So it's loading right now, but yeah, you'll see it's high contrast with a darker background with these lighter elements to make it clear, but we'll turn that back off for now. So next is narrator. So this feature, if you turn it on, it basically allows your computer to read things on your screen aloud to you. So once you turn it on, you can decide how and when it reads aloud to you. You can have it kind of always doing it or change the settings, but this is a great option for those who are seeing impaired. Next, when we get into hearing, so hearing audio, you can, the simple stuff like change the volume from loud to quiet. But there's also an option for mono, which basically means that when you're listening to something that has sound coming out of either the left or right speaker, you're able to change it so that the same sounds are coming out of both ears. And that is a really great section if you have if you're hearing impaired like one ear and you have a better ear and you want to get the full audio, that's when that setting comes in really handy. So closed captioning. So this basically will put closed captioning on videos you're watching where it's available. So it's not always available on a lot of sites like YouTube or Netflix or Amazon Video will have built-in features for closed captions, but this can, where it's available, present you with closed captioning, and you can decide on the caption color, the transparency, the style, size, stuff like that. So you're really able to change it because sometimes that's not as individualizable, I guess, in things like YouTube and Netflix. So if it's also hard for you to see small closed captions, this is a great option to set up. And we see an example right up here of how it's going to look like. So when you're making those changes, you'll be able to have that as a reference point as to what it's going to look like. So next we're going into interaction, and we will go into speech. So this is basically where you can use your voice as a command. So you have the talk instead of type feature, which basically allows you to use dictation to write stuff. So if you have this turned on when you're typing up a document, if you get tired of typing or else you kind of want to spitball some ideas, you can basically just start talking and it will transcribe everything you're saying and write it down. The next is we have Cortana, which is basically the Microsoft version, I would say, like Siri or Alexa. So it basically allows you to give voice commands to your computer. And here you can turn it on or off and use speech recognition, and you can choose your command option, the command word that you use, and you can also then choose the the way the person speaks back to you. So their voice, if they're a male or female, stuff like that is available on here. So again, much like Hey Google or Siri or Alexa, this is the Microsoft version of that software. Next, we have keyboard settings. So in here, you'll see we have sticky keys, which basically you turn on if you have a tendency to hit certain keys accidentally. What it will do, it will adjust to that, so you can turn that on and then choose keys that you often make mistakes with. You hit enter a lot by accident. It will address that issue so that it takes a bit more effort to type certain things or type them. You might want to have to press the button twice just because you know that you have a tendency to hit them accidentally and it causes issues. So you can use that to counteract any sort of problem like that. So like if you were pressing enter, you'd have to press enter twice to get it to work if you're using sticky keys on it. We also have this on-screen keyboard here at the top, and you'll see it brings up the keyboard, and you can use it to type with your mouth, which is great if your keyboard ever conks out. I know sometimes you get problems with it, so it's a good option. Keyboard shortcuts, so you can change how those work, what the access keys are if you forget them and you want them to be a bit easier. So there's lots of options there. So next is mouse. So there's this control your mouse with your keypad. Basically, you could use your arrow keys to control how your mouse works. If you wanted to, you can see all these other options, like only use mouse keys when num lock is on, so it's not always going to be on, but if you turn the number locks on, it will work. And you can change the speed at which it moves to make it a bit easier to use, since it's not going to be quite as natural. Eye control, so this is a beta feature, so it might not work very well, or you have to download it, I think. But basically what this does is it uses your eyes as your mouse. So if you're unable to have use of your hands or anything else, you can use your eyes basically to control your mouse. It will use access of your camera to do that. So lastly here, I want to show you that there's always this option on the right to get help on and more information on any of the settings in your accessibility settings. So if you want to learn more about what something means in any of these menus and guides, they're all accessible there, which is really great. A lot of them are super in depth and will help you out if you ever have any questions about what a certain setting does or how to adjust it. So that's always really great and there and available for you. And it's in every single section, so it will be individualized to each section. Okay, so that covers the computer section of it. Now we're going to be jumping into tablet and phone accessibility settings, and we're going to start off looking at iOS, which is the system running on iPhones and iPads. All right, so here I have my iPad. This runs on iOS, which is the operating system on Apple phones and tablets, so the iPhone and the iPad. Again, depending on whether it's a phone or a tablet, these settings may vary a bit. Also depending on the age of your device, so what model it is. Some of these may vary as well, depending on what features you have access to because of hardware updates. But for the most part, they should be the same. So we'll jump right in. So as always, to access our accessibility settings, we're going to start by going to the Settings app, which for me is on that final main row, and it's the gear icon right there, and it says Settings underneath. So I'll tap in here. Now, in my settings, and this is how it looks on the iPad. Again, this will look slightly different on the iPhone. You'll kind of get this list that's over on the left, and as you click into sections, they'll take over the entire screen. But on my iPad, I have all the sections over on the left, and then the contents of them get shown on the right side of the screen. So there's a bit of a difference there. But in any case, whatever I'm looking at, I will scroll down until I see the accessibility section. So now it's at the top of my list on the left here. And again, it's that little icon, the person with the outstretched arms. And we will start going over this. So these settings are split up into
4 categories: vision, physical and motor, hearing, and general. So we'll start from the top here. So first we have voiceover. Voiceover speaks items on the screen, so you'll tap an item and it will start reading it. Now with all of these settings, you should have some sort of explanation of what they do. So I can turn on and off voiceover by just clicking
Voiceover
this,
on. Landscape.
it's going to start
Voiceover on. Voiceover
speaking
off.
stuff. So I'm just going to turn it off pretty soon because it's pretty intense. But you can then go down here and you can change things like the speaking rate. You can change the speech, which allows you to change the pitch of speech, the person's voice, the languages it can detect, and all of that. You can change things like the verbosity, the audio. You can turn on if it reads out commands. You'll be able to choose if it reads out activities that are happening on the screen, if it reads out punctuation. So there's all sorts of things that we can change about this setting and play around with. There's a lot here. But the main thing is to turn it on, and then once you turn it on, you can kind of fine tune it with all these other sections that we'll click into here. Things like auto ducking, if it reads out commands, as I said before. So that's voiceover. Next, we have zoom. Zoom allows you to magnify parts of the screen by double tapping the screen. So generally, we can zoom in on certain things like pictures and on certain websites, but we can't zoom in on, like, say, the screen I'm on now. There's no ability to do that. When we turn on this setting, we can zoom in and we can use this little zoom feature to zoom around. We just simply tap with 3 fingers and it should bring it up, and then we can move this little thing around and get a little zoom thing on our screen. Tap with 3 fingers to turn it off, and that's how it works. You'll also have stuff like you can turn on follow focus and smart typing on here. Smart typing will switch the window zoom when the keyboard appears, and it will move the window so the text is zoomed. You can also create a keyboard shortcut for this, and all sorts of different features, and you can change the maximum zoom level on this, so how much it will zoom in on a section. So that is zoom. Next we have the magnifier, not to be confused with the zoom. The magnifier lets you use your device's camera to magnify your surroundings. So if I were to turn this on, I could access a shortcut in my camera that will allow me to zoom in on things in real life. So this could be great if you're reading a menu and you need a little extra assistance, or a book and you want to use your camera to zoom in on things. And then we get into display and text size. So this is really great and really simple ways to make your device just a bit easier to use, especially if you're, have some vision problems or just some slight vision loss. So you can do things, which I already have on, like bold the text. You'll see when I bold the text, everything becomes a bit clearer. I like this setting. I keep it on for myself. You can also turn on larger text, and it enables you to make text really large. Now, sometimes I think this is too big. It makes it kind of hard to go through things, but if you need it, you can make the text really large on your screen here. We can turn on button shapes, which just give buttons a bit more shape to them. So the only thing it's doing on my screen now is if you're paying attention to where it says accessibility at the top of my screen, it's underlying it. So makes it a bit clearer, I guess. You can put on and off labels on these switches that I'm using over to the right of things. We can reduce transparency, so when there's moments where like overlays or notifications that pop up have some transparency, it removes that transparency. The thing you can notice with it right now is near the search bar. There's a bit of transparency there, and as I turn this on and off, it removes that. You can increase the contrast of the screen. Again, I think this is a really simple, easy thing to do that makes things look just a bit crisper and clearer. You can choose to differentiate without color, so rather than color being the thing that differentiates item from item, it will use other stuff to do so. You can use Smart Invert, which inverts the colors of your screens. It makes things a bit more clear and maybe more contrasty. Or you can use the Classic Invert, which can be pretty intense. The Smart Invert might be the better option there. It's a bit less crazy with the colors. You can also use color filters. So if you're colorblind, you can choose a specific color filter so that you'll be able to see the colors that will adjust based on different types of color blindness. Then we have reduce the white point, which will reduce the intensity of bright colors. This is good if you have sensitive eyes and you're finding they're straining or that the light is hard on them. Then we have auto brightness. We can turn this on or off. Auto brightness works by adjusting the brightness of our screen. Now it's very dark for me, so I have to fix this. By adjusting the brightness of our screen depending on the time of day. So it can be helpful for that. So that's all in display and text size. Next we have motion. So we can reduce the motion on our screen by getting rid of transitions, like when I exit out of this app, how it kind of just squeezes down to the bottom or it swipes away. Those transitions go away. You can prefer crossfade transitions, so using less motion when you have transitions. So say if I go to my home page, this kind of just disappears rather than swooping down like that. So you'll see it's a bit of a different transition. So you can remove those or turn those on or off as you like. Next we have spoken content. So we have the speak selection thing as we had above, but a speak button will appear when you select text. So you can get it to read things on the screen. You can get it to speak the whole screen. So it's basically a screen reader. Like that, you can again change the voices in here to different voices that you prefer, and you can change the speaking rate and pronunciation on here. Next we have audio descriptions. So when available, they'll automatically play audio descriptions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of things that do provide audio descriptions, but when there are, if you turn this on, they will be made automatically available to you. Next, we're going to get into physical and motor settings. So first we have in touch, we have things like assistive touch. Assistive touch allows you to use your iPad if you have difficulty touching the screen, or if you need adaptive accessories. So you can change how you tap things. You can connect devices like a mouse or a switch to be able to more easily use your device. You'll see there's lots of options here, so stuff you want to check out and read the descriptions of and play around. Haptic touch, where you can press on the display using different lengths of times to reveal content previews. So this helps if you have a problem doing quick touches or you find yourself holding things down too slowly. Touch accommodations, again, just if you have trouble touching the screen, you can adjust these settings like hold duration, and you can turn off swiping gestures. You can ignore repeats, so if you have a tendency to double click by accident because of a shaky hand, you can turn that off. You can turn on shake to undo, so if you make a mistake, you just shake the device and it undoes the action that you just performed. Specifically helpful when typing things and stuff like that. Next, we get into switch control. So if you have a switch, which is like a different device that you want to use on this, you can use the switch to control the device and just attach it to the iPad using Bluetooth or whatever it uses. And then you can then change all the settings for those adaptive devices that you're using. We can use voice control, so you can set up voice control so you can use your voice to control your device, ask it to do things like open apps, click on things, send emails, whatever it is you want to do. And again, here's all the settings that would go along with that you can adjust once you turn this on. Home button, you can change the click speed of your home button. So if you have a home button, I do on my iPad. Newer devices don't have it, so this again may not be a feature on your Apple phone or tablet. Apple TV remote, if you have an Apple TV remote, you can use it with this iPad to help control it, and you can use that remote to click around on here. Keyboards, again, you can use a separate keyboard on here, and you can change the settings about how you use that keyboard. Again, if you need sticky keys turned on or off, or slow keys where you can hold down keys for longer and it doesn't double up. Won't put a bunch of R's if you accidentally hold down R too long, stuff like that. And then we get into hearing. So you could actually connect a compatible hearing device with this iPad so that stuff that plays off of the iPad plays automatically into your hearing piece. Sound recognition allows your iPad to listen to sounds in your room. This could be an issue for privacy if you don't like it, but it can help understand if there's harm happening or there's stuff happening in the room in emergency situations. It's not the best, and they don't suggest that you use it for that, but it will use sound recognition to figure out what's going on around you. Audio and visual. So headphone accommodations. You can customize the audio on supported Apple and Beats headphones. And you can change how those work, if there's buttons on them or commands you can use with them. You can turn on mono audio or change at the bottom the balance of audio. This is more helpful if you're using headphones. So basically, when you have a sound or a song, the audio may be mixed that some sounds come out of one side of the speaker and some out of the others. You can turn on mono or change the balance to make sure it comes out of both sides or just one or the other. Really helpful if you may be, hard of hearing in one ear, or just have better hearing in another. Subtitles and captioning. This allows you to turn on closed captioning when available. Again, it's not always available on videos and stuff, but if it is, this will make sure that it automatically is turned on. And then you can go into style and you can select how it looks and appears on your screen. And lastly, general. So guided access keeps the iPad in a single app and allows you to control which features are available. So you can turn that on. Siri is the voice assistant on your device. So Siri can definitely be used as an accessibility feature. It's really great for allowing you to perform actions on your device easily and stops you from having to use it so much with your hands. And then accessibility shortcut. So you can configure your home button so that if you triple click it, and again, I don't know it will have something different if you don't have the home button about how you access these shortcuts. For me, I have it. So it's a triple click of the home button. On a non-home button Apple device, they'll have a different way of accessing the shortcut. But then you can select what feature, what accessibility feature is brought up when you do that. So it's just a quick access tool for key accessibility features. So that's basically the gist of the iPad and iPhone accessibility features. Again, there's a lot in here, so I skimmed over portions of it. So it's really important that you check it out if there's a section that was really of interest to you or you thought would be really helpful. The great thing about Apple products is they have a huge array of accessibility features. They really prioritize it. The bad thing is that there's just so much to go through, and so it takes time, and it's really something that you should explore more and see what works for you and see what works best.
All right, now that we're done that, we are going to move on to Android accessibility settings. So last but certainly not least, this is the system running on Android phones and tablets, so Samsung, LG, Lenovo, as I said, to name a few. All right, so here I am on my Android tablet. Now I'm using a Lenovo tablet, and Android is a system made by Google, and a lot of different devices and brands use it. And so some of the features of it, specifically in the settings, may differ from device to device. So I have, like I said, a Lenovo. If you have a Samsung or an LG, these settings may look a bit different. The options may differ, so just do be aware of that. But to get to our accessibility settings, the way is always the same. We're going to start by going to the settings application. Now, that's usually indicated by a gear icon. So mine's in the bottom right corner of my screen here. That's the settings app. I'm going to click on that, and it should open up my settings. Now, when we open up our settings, again, it's usually a little list here. So I'll just scroll down on this page using my finger until I get to the accessibility settings. Now, accessibility settings, as always, are usually marked by this little icon of a person with outstretched arms. So if you're looking for it, that's usually what the symbol is. So we'll click in here and we'll get started. And as I said, on Androids, some of these settings may differ, so just be aware that yours may be ordered differently than mine, or there may be just different names or different settings altogether, but they should be generally pretty similar. So to start on my screen, I have accessibility menu, so I'll click into here. So what accessibility menu allows me to do is create an accessibility menu shortcut. Now, if you look over the right of my screen, I have these navigation buttons. If I turn this on, I'm going to get this accessibility shortcut along with my navigation buttons over on the right. So to turn it on, there's that little button to the right of where it says accessibility menu shortcut. I'm just going to tap that to turn this on. It's first going to ask me to allow, just going to double check that I do want to turn this on. I will. Got it. And now you'll see in the top right corner of my screen, there's that little accessibility icon, the person with the outstretched arm there now. So if I tap on that, I'll get this little pop-out menu, and it gives me some quick access to some accessibility features or different settings. So it's pretty handy there. Now, I will go back to my main list and we will continue on. So next we have select to speak. This does pretty much what it sounds like it does. If you're ever curious about a setting though and what it does, you can usually scroll down to the bottom of the page, and on this one it will tell you what it does. So this one you can select a part of the screen and it will be read out loud by the system. So we'll turn this one on to try it. I'm not going to try all of the settings on here because they just go off and it's kind of sometimes difficult to turn them back off. But this one we will try. So I'll press the switch on this one and I'll click allow. Got it. And now that this is on, what I can do is I can click on my little accessibility icon in the corner here, and it should have activated it. We can see there's this little thing in the bottom right corner, and I'll just pull my finger on the screen, drag it across a section that I want to be read, and it should start
About select to speak.
reading out loud.
When select to speak is on, you can tap specific items on your screen to hear.
And I could just click the red button to stop it, which I did. So that is select to speak. It can be handy if you just need some stuff spoken on your screen from time to time, say the font is too small or something like that. I'm going to turn that off for now though. Next we'll go back and we're going to go next to switch access. So switch access allows you to interact with your Android using a switch device. So these are accessibility devices that you can connect to your tablet and use it. So on this one, we would turn it on and click allow, and then it would cause us to go through this setup system where we would choose how we were connecting our switch device. So either it's by USB or Bluetooth or whatever it is. So this is a kind of third-party a device that you'd have that you could connect to your tablet to use. So you don't have to use the touch screen. You can use a different device to navigate your tablet screen. But I'm going to go back here and turn this back off. Next, we have TalkBack. So TalkBack is not unsimilar from Select to Speak, but it's a bit more intensive. So what TalkBack does is it provides spoken feedback when you touch really any part of the screen. So when you turn it on, it does cause some difficulty with touching. You'll end up having to double touch everything in order to select stuff. I can turn it on just to show you briefly. But now you'll see that things start getting highlighted. When I click on things,
Use TalkBack on switch.
it will read it. And
Double tap to activate.
if I want to activate it, as it said, I'll have to double tap it.
Stop TalkBack.
So this is a bit more of an intense feature.
Stop. TalkBack on.
And you'd only really use it if you were had really poor sight and needed some extra assistance. But if you're just needing it for occasional reading of the screen, then the select to speak option is going to be great for you. Now, the next thing we have is we have text to speech output, and this allows us to control the speech rate and pitch of the voice when it's reading. So when we're using that text to speech and screen reader stuff, we can change how fast that voice is, what pitch it's in. We can also change the system language being used so it can recognize a different language. So if you're using your device in Spanish or French, you would have to change it in here so it was recognizing that device. Next, we get into some display settings. So first of all, we have font size. So in this section, we have an example over the left, and we can use this little bar and the little ball to go across the screen. I'm just using my finger to move this, and we can change the size of general text on our screen. So that's a pretty handy tool, especially if you have vision problems. Next, we have display size, not to be confused with text size. This is for things like icons and buttons that we may be using. We can change the size as well with this little bar as well. And then we'll go back. Ooh, jumped out of there by accident. Next, we have what's called dark theme. So right now my device is in light theme, meaning my background is this white background and it's using light colors. If I go into dark theme, it turns the screen all dark. Now sometimes we want to use this theme at night, and that will help, not strain our eyes so much. So it's a helpful thing to switch on and off when you're in daylight versus nighttime. But I'm going to turn that back off for now. All right, so after dark theme in here, we have magnification. This allows us to quickly zoom in on the screen. So there's certain screens that will automatically allow you to zoom in on them, but not all will. So this, if you turn it on, you can use your shortcut to zoom into really any screen. You just turn it on, and then you could double click and you can zoom into screens, or you can use 2 fingers and then move around the screen. So this is a helpful tool if you want to be able to zoom in onto certain parts of the screens that you wouldn't otherwise be able to on your device. Then we have color correction. This is really helpful if you have any sort of color blindness. You can basically select different kinds of correction modes, and it will change the colors on your screen so that you'll see the proper colors that that are actually presenting on the screen. Then we have color inversion, and color inversion will invert the colors on our screens. Again, this can be used to have a less severe version. It also kind of sometimes increases the contrast of the screen, so it can be helpful to see if you're having trouble seeing some of these buttons. I know the gray to white kind of difference with these buttons can be a bit sometimes hard to see or unclear, so that can help with that. Next, we have large mouse pointer. That's not really that useful unless you have like a mouse that you're using with the device. For me, I don't have one, so it doesn't do anything, but you do, it will make the little pointer on your screen larger. Remove animations removes the animations between pages. So say if I were to go back to my home screen right now, this app kind of swipes away off the screen. When I turn off animations, it means that it just kind of disappears in the next one, next screen just appears. So things look a bit less smooth, but if the movement of the screen is bothersome to you, you can turn those animations off. Next is auto click or dwelling time. So basically what this does is when you connect to a mouse, you can set the mouse cursor to click automatically when the mouse stops moving. So if you're using, again, a mouse as a part of your tablet use, you can use this to make it a bit easier so you don't have to use the clicking feature on your mouse. Next, we have auto rotate screen. So when you move your device from side to side, right, your screen will reorient itself to whichever way you're holding it, and you can turn this feature on and off so it does or doesn't switch depending. And then touch and hold delay. This one means that depending on how long you're holding something down, like a button, you may have to hold it for a longer period of time or shorter period of time, and this can help if you have problems tapping things quickly and you need more time to be able to release your finger so that you don't have that quick button, or you hold something down and then it performs an action that's different than you meant to because you couldn't tap something quick enough. And then we have time to take action, which basically means that when you get messages on your screen, notifications, they'll stay up longer depending on how you set it to. So if you have a problem where you're getting notifications or messages and they're disappearing too quick for you, you can elongate the time they stay on your screen. So you can change it to 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 2 minutes. Next, we have vibration and haptic strength. So your device will vibrate when you get things like notifications, or it might make sounds or vibrations when you type on your keyboard, and you can just change if these things are on or off and how strong those kind of vibrations and feelings that you get are when you touch the device. So if it's helpful to be able to be more aware of you tapping something or touching something with a stronger vibration, then this can be helpful to you. System navigation. So I have these 3 buttons here on the right side of my screen. Those are my navigation buttons. On mine, I can choose to have a gesture navigation or a 3-button navigation. A gesture navigation means those buttons aren't there. I just use my finger to swipe around the screen to go back to my home screen or go back, rather than using the button navigation. I prefer the button navigation. I think it really simplifies things, but to each their own. And next we move into audio and on-screen text. So first of all, we have mono audio. This means that the sound coming out of the left and right speaker on your device play the same. So this is mostly useful when you're using headphones because you may have a sound mix that has certain sound coming out of the right side and certain sounds coming out of the left side. And so if you're, say, hard of hearing in one ear, mono audio can be great. Or alternatively, you can change the audio balance, which is the next thing down here, from the right side to the left side, depending on your preference. Next, we have caption preferences. So in here, we can turn on auto captions. So where captions are available and supported, and they're not always, but on certain videos, you can turn on automatic captions on here. And you can also change the caption size and style by clicking on that caption size and style section. Now, at the end, we have what's called the experimental section, and this is high contrast text. This one doesn't change much in my experience, but if you look up where it says accessibility at the top of the screen now, you'll see when I turn on this high contrast text, which I'm going to do now, it just changes how that text appears, so it makes it more contrasting to the background, so it should be technically easier to see or recognize. And lastly, we have shortcut from lock screen. So this allows you to feature shortcuts to turn on the lock screen. So things you wouldn't otherwise be able to access, like shortcuts, until you were into your device and had typed in your passcode, you would be able to access from the lock screen before that. So that's kind of the gist of those accessibility settings on the Android device. You'll see that they're very similar to other devices if you watch the other sections. But again, to access those, go into your settings app and then go into the accessibility settings section of your settings. All right, well, that's it for today's session. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you for listening. But if you do have any questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free at 844-217-3057. Or you can visit us online at www.cyberseniors.org. And once again, this webinar was proudly sponsored by Breezeline, and you can check them out online at www.breezeline.com. Have a lovely rest of your day.